Okay, well, I'm happy to hear that ICE is supposed to be leaving, um, drawing down the surge in my hometown, Minneapolis, where I was born and did activism, lived for 30 years, and that the focus is now on beginning to turn on to the so-called leader of the free world being a child rapist. Um, Ted Lieu has talking on record that Donald Trump is implicated as a child rapist. And I first posted this on my blog 2024 that Sarah Ransome had was quoted in Newsweek or from her email stating that she went out to go for coffee with somebody who was regularly abused by Donald Trump at Epstein's New York City mansion. And then Sarah Ramson had threats against her and her family, and she fled to the UK. And there was mention of it by Midas Touch when the released files had Trump's name redacted in relation to Sarah Ransom's email, even though it was published in Newsweek. And that was about a month ago, I think, or I don't know, a couple months ago. But I just find it fascinating that how long does it take the corporate media to realize, oh, insists he's never went to Epstein's island? Well, yeah, okay, fine, but what about Epstein's New York City mansion? Like they can't they can't realize that just that he insists that he never went to the island doesn't mean he wasn't regularly going to Epstein's New York City mansion. And how long does it take the well-paid media? They're well paid to self-censor and not rock the boat too much. So it's kind of take all this stuff is dribbling out. But I first posted it in 2024, so here we are 2 years later, and I'm glad that the world is starting to realize, these Epstein files are starting to expose the what's really going on. But there's still a lot of videos. Like Sarah Ransom said, there were videos, of the Epstein's New York City mansion. It just makes sense. I don't know why people aren't focusing on. She settled against Epstein, so she's a credible witness. And then when she went to the UK, she reversed her retraction because the corporate media is like, oh well, she retracted her claim about the videos, and but once she was in England, she said, well, she had been threatened. She and her family had been threatened, and that's why she had to retract it. And then in England, she's said, yeah, it's all true. Like there are videos and of from Epstein's New York City mansion with Donald Trump. Um, and of course, the close ties of Epstein with Russia, with Putin, and Donald Trump relying on laundering Russian mafia money into his real estate. And yeah, so it's what I called imperial implosion. And 30 years ago, I dubbed it imperial implosion. When I had a free zine that I called Evil Empire about the U.S. empire. So I just got Alfred McCoy's new book on the Cold War and the 30 men on the spot, as they were called by the British Empire, of Cold War intelligent or imperial agents that were covert assets that had extreme leverage to dominate, to set up imperial client states around the world. and he gets into the counterintelligence that the Soviets also used, and it's going to be really fascinating book. I have it as an ebook, but I haven't. I just kind of didn't really start it yet as the ebook, and then I'll get the hard copy pretty soon, so that'll be easier to read. But anyway, this problem reveals a deeper problem in modern society of the patriarchy and ecological crisis, the basically the destruction of life on Earth, ecology through abrupt global warming and pollution, deforestation, chemical warfare, nuclear radiation. So now they're trying to claim, nuclear like thorium reactors are going to save us and blah blah blah. But you still have to use uranium to activate the thorium, and there's still nuclear waste waste from those reactors, and I mean it's not, there's no way that's going to save us, but people really want to believe. And meanwhile, the all the damage done from nuclear radiation and the uranium mining and the two-headed babies from depleted uranium weapons, and that all needs to be addressed. And then you got like 300 million people, mainly in Africa, that are in acute food insecurity due to abrupt global warming, and that doesn't even get discussed at all. In the Western, in the information superhighway. So um, we are having a lot more extreme weather, and then El Nino is going to be kicking in pretty soon, which will make the global warming even more extreme. Um, and then it's very possible that the Arctic methane that's pressurized in the subsea permafrost in the East Siberian Arctic Shelf will then have a abrupt eruption that's 50 gigatons, and the tolics have already melted down to that. So this is what science tells us. Science can describe the problem in great detail if we look for it, but the solution is, in terms of global warming, it's really based on algae, because oil and coal is mainly from algae, phytoplankton, and that's due to the quantum non-local negentropy. That's the same secret of meditation. So it's going to be interesting because we're getting like all these algae blooms, and people are trying to fertilize the oceans to increase the algae growth to sequester carbon in the oceans. And that's really the only way to sequester enough carbon, CO2, to try to support life on Earth. So it's not too hot too fast, but right now the CO2 is accelerating the fastest it's ever done in the billions of years of life on Earth. So anyway, that's pretty much all I wanted to say. It's going to be interesting to see if the U.S. empire survives another 5 years. There's speculation that, because the economy is so much based on speculation, financial speculation. It's probably like, I don't know, 40% of the economy, and then the rest of it is like military spending, um, and so the 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 military cost is just going to keep increasing. Anyway, I'll just leave it at that, and we'll just keep trying to meditate, because that's the truth of reality.